These are the kinds of candidate interviews I want to see. It's difficult to do with PV because if like an interview with a candidate through PV is going to segue into like wanting to canvass your phone bank for them. So I can't talk to them and be like, hey, you're ugly and your fit is trash. And then be like, all right, everyone go and phone bank for them. You know, there's kind of like an expectation of civility, which is fine. But at the same time, I do have questions sometimes. I do have questions. Mehdi challenges Graham Platner in his tattoo and more. I want to see this. Can I survive up to 30 minutes of Graham Platner's fucking corpse husband vocal fry? We'll find out.
How would you describe the U.S. relationship with Israel?
Shameful. What has happened in Gaza, it's the moral question of our time, and we failed it miserably. We need to get money out of politics. The cost of war is something I have seen up front. I have seen friends die.
How do you avoid the John Fetterman vibes?
I'm pretty sure you can still ask them questions, you know? Yeah, I just hate asking questions when I know the answer, which makes me a bad interviewer. Also, I hate asking questions when the person agrees with me.
That man is the bane of my existence. It was something that's been fascinating for me in this entire experience is realizing just how many people who run for office don't actually have any deeper political beliefs.
When exactly did you find out that the tattoo on your chest could be a Nazi tattoo?
Are you sure Zateo's safe to stream copyright-wise? Yeah, Zateo's fine. Me and Mehdi Hasan, we go way back. By which I mean I think he might follow my main account on Twitter that I don't use. I'm not sure.
Or seen as one?
I had it for 17 years. I went through 2 security clearances. Never came up.
Is there other stuff out there that's going to come
Mods,
out
Chud
now?
Mark, beloved partner.
Graham Platner came out of nowhere. An oyster farmer from Maine running to unseat veteran Republican Senator Susan Collins.
Dude, has anyone pointed this out? His name literally sounds like graham cracker. That's crazy.
In the midterm elections this fall. Platner, who formerly served with the Marines and the Army with deployment in Iraq and Afghanistan, is running a very progressive anti-war campaign opposing Trump's war in Iran and speaking out about Israel's genocide in Gaza. He's leading in the polls against his big-name Democratic opponent in the June 9th primary, Governor Janet Mills. But Platner's campaign is not without controversy.
Janet Mills is going to get fucking obliterated, by the way. All the polling seems to indicate that. It's not even gonna be close. I wonder if her vetoing the data center bill is gonna come up.
He joins me now to unpack it all. Welcome to Mehdi Unfiltered, Graham Platner.
Why are we still asking about the Nazi tattoo? 1, content. 2, he's obviously lying about it. He definitely knew it was a Nazi tattoo, maybe when he got it, maybe afterwards, and he kept it because he thought it was funny. It's like a classic The Boys thing. You know what I mean? Like you bust that shit out for drunk wedding parties. Oh, check it out. Check out my tattoo. Isn't it funny? Because if you're not a Nazi, it is funny.
Thank you very much, Mehdi. It's a pleasure to be here.
Graham, one of the central debates around your candidacy is the word, and you've heard it a lot, especially from the media, electability. The establishment view is that you are not electable. You are someone who is unorthodox, you have no experience, you have a lot of baggage, and that Janet Mills, the governor, who people know, she's the safe bet. What's your take on electability?
Well, I think that is a take that comes from people.
Mills stopped running digital ads. She's literally given up. Well, good to see the Senate Democrats are as strong as ever. Yeah, bro, having an ironic Nazi tattoo is the stuff of comedy. No red flags there. I maintain my position that being the kind of chud who's like, you know, fuck the establishment. Oh, that's a totem comp. I didn't know. Well, that's funny. You are still less of a Nazi than a moderate Democrat who supports Israel. You know? It's like actual existing Nazism versus theoretical Nazism, where we have to like grade the legitimacy of a maybe insincerely attributed tattoo cover up versus like, well, this woman literally just wants to give money to the Fourth Reich. You know what I mean? Sure, but you know my position as a moderate Dems that support Israel. I feel like in a way the tattoo thing actually endears me more to him just because it makes him seem like a fucking idiot, and I'm so tired of politicians being calculating sociopaths. I guess my hope is that you can't be a calculating sociopath if you're stupid enough to get a fucking totem comp tattoo and then keep it until running for the Senate as a Democrat, you know? What if that Oppo research never hit and like no one knew about the tattoo and then one day he just like casually went to the beach like after winning as a senator? It's like 2027. He shows, he photos taken, he takes off the shirt, everyone's like, what the fuck?
Who are really trying to protect their interests and protect the system that they're working within. In their version of politics, sure, but their version of politics has been losing for quite some time. I mean, the zeitgeist here in Maine is pretty clear. People do not want establishment politicians. People do not want to continue doing the exact same thing we've done for years, and people don't want to run the exact same kind of playbook that is lost to Susan Collins over and over and over again. We are doing something entirely different, and it is ironic to me that the people who are crowing about electability are the same folks who tend to take polls seriously. But we are at now something like 12 or 13 consecutive polls
Big
that have me
fucking
winning the
audio
primary
delay
by
there.
substantial margins and winning the general by significantly higher margins than the sitting governor would against Susan Collins. And so I think it's just, there has just been a shift in what politics is in this country. And a lot of the people in places of political power, the people who think that they have experience, the ground has shifted beneath them.
There's a Fetterman question, just wait. I mean, the difference is that Fetterman was always a Zionist. Obviously, part of it is the brain damage element, but like, I think the only reason that Fetterman gets compared to this guy is because they both have a general Chud aesthetic going on, but it's worth remembering that most Americans have a Chud aesthetic going on. Like, most American men. Like, legitimately, more than 50% of them have that, like, just literally go anywhere in America. It's the unique absence of the Chud aesthetic in Washington. Like, that's the distinction, you know? That's the unusual affect. A lot of guys just look like this.
They don't really know how to
Well,
react.
not like Fetterman. He's a fucking
very
ogre,
fair point
but...
about the polls. Your critics, though, would say, well, look, we have a Republican president who was elected in 2016 with zero executive or legislative experience. He didn't know anything about government. He'd never been in public life. He was a guy from reality TV and Home Alone 2. Why should Democrats follow that path? You are an oyster fisherman, a Marine vet, which is great. But what do you know about legislating? What do you know about foreign policy, they might say?
Well, I would say, one, it's not the same path because I have an immense amount of experience dealing with American foreign policy firsthand.
Yes.
I have an immense amount of experience with the challenges of returning home from the failures of that foreign policy. But I also have a lot of experience in re-engaging with my community and building a small business and being successful materially.
Bosch, a totem conf just looks like a skull and crossbones. The dude was a military Chud at the time. I don't get why we're so committed to the idea he knew it was a Nazi symbol. No. I don't think he knew it was a Nazi symbol when he got it. I think he found out like 2 days after. I do not think it took him over a decade to find out. I think that's total bullshit. I don't think he knew when he got it.
In the real world. I think that one of our problems is we have a lot of people who think that experience comes from being part of the political system that has brought us to this moment. But that politics that brought us here, that's the problem. Having experience in building the system that allows billionaires to consolidate the wealth that they've consolidated, that's allowed for a system that has created essentially unlivable conditions for a lot of working people in this country, where things like housing and healthcare and the general affordability of goods and services goes through the roof.
The rune cover-up was hilarious, I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, covering up the totem comp with like Nordic runes and wolves or something is the funniest fucking way to, you know. Covering up the totem comp by blacking it out and then adding spokes going out at 90-degree angles in a 4 pattern to like add a little bit of a sort of a little je ne sais quoi, a little, you know, repetitive. Yeah, it is a Smiling Friends bit.
I have experience with that, with the exact, or I don't have experience with that. I have experience with the outcomes of that kind of politics. And I think what we really need are people from the normal world who understand that policy begets real material things for people. And that is an experience that we have lost in many places in the halls of power. And I think it's one of the reasons why this campaign is so successful, is many Americans, certainly many Mainers, believe that that's exactly the kind of experience that's going to get us into a better future.
That's undeniably true, that politics and Congress does not reflect the real world or real people and working people. And clearly you've been popular because of that. I'm not going to pretend I don't share your politics. I do. Everyone knows that. When I watch your race, though, forgive me, I cannot forget the John Fetterman race. John Fetterman was someone I supported in his primary. I supported him in the general. When he was being attacked by Republicans after his health issues, after his stroke, I defended him. And now you look at John Fetterman, and he's a genocidal, warmongering...
He's in the group chat. He was posting about the ballroom just the same as everyone else, yeah.
Trump-loving Senate Democrat refuses to go against the filibuster and all sorts of other things he promised to be a vote on. And of course, he wasn't just popular because he was a progressive. He was seen as an ordinary person too. He was seen, he wore a hoodie. I notice you're wearing a hoodie right now. He wears a hoodie. So you must get this, Graham Platner. Like, how do you avoid the John Fetterman vibes? People say, I like Graham Platner, but I hope he doesn't turn into John Fetterman once he's liking this video. Then don't just watch, hit like, share, and subscribe. And tap the bell so you never miss a video or live show. But
I'm already a fan, Mr. Hasan. I'm already a fan.
On the Senate floor.
Okay.
That's how you can be on the Senate floor. And if you want to be effective in the Senate, you have to be on the floor. Otherwise, I don't know, what's the point? The other thing is, and I think this is really important, much of the story around John Fetterman was a bit of a story. He had been trying to get into politics for quite some time.
Yes.
When you look at his background, for many, it was clear he had political ambitions. I really was just an oyster farmer, and the extent of my political ambitions was being the harbor master in my town of 1,000 people. The reason I'm doing this is I do have a theory of power in which the U.S. Senate has a extreme...
There is a limited time on this rhetoric, by the way, and this is a big problem that the left has with its like permanent underdog status, is that the left understands the rhetoric of being like the guy fighting against the system. We need to be the system. You know what I mean? This like, I didn't want to lead. I'm just a regular guy being called to action because I'm tired of the elites in DC. Like, I don't want to be part of a political movement that's always on the outside fighting to get to the inside. I want to support people who for their entire lives have been like militantly disciplined politically, who are like in lockstep and are fighting for the good stuff 24/7. And they're the ones in charge. You know what I mean? So this rhetoric works when Chuck Schumer leads the Senate Democrats. But what happens in the future if he leads the Senate Democrats? He won't, but like follow through with the hypothetical. What do you do if he leads the Senate Democrats? Well, you can't really run on like a, well, we're tired of the man in DC ticket anymore. You know what I mean? It's important to understand that like our advocacy exists beyond just the little guy standing up to the big guy. One day, God willing, we will be the big guy, and that doesn't make the little guy good, because in that case, if we're the big guy, the little guy will be chuds, and then we have to step on the chuds. The chud cells, my stupid fat gay retard chud children. We have to step on them.
Extremely important function. I think because it's a uniquely... It was built
like how RFK Jr. was talking about the government lying to you. Perfect fucking example of what I mean. Yeah, the rhetorical breakdown where your rhetoric stops making sense because you're on the inside now. RFK Jr. doing a podcast like government is lying to you. Meanwhile, he runs the DHHS, like the perfect example. Yeah.
Be a place of power for elites to hold back working class power, but that actually makes it a unique target to build working class power, because the bang for your buck with Senate seats is pretty spectacular when it comes to power versus the funds and the kind of apparatus necessary to win. And I think,
at this point, Platner's so far ahead, I'm pretty sure that you could just donate to Mills and it wouldn't make a difference. Like, I don't even know if I can fairly advocate for donating to Graham Platner, because it feels like his win is so fucking guaranteed. I cannot imagine him losing.
The Trump administration building a better future. We need loud voices in the Senate who are willing to build power and wield it. Fetterman, really doesn't come from that kind of, I think, one, structural critique, and certainly didn't have, when you look closer, a long track record of being very specific or very, what's the word I'm looking for here? Consistent on his policies. For instance, on Israel, long before that happened, he's been outspoken in supporting the Israeli government.
Yes.
And you can find op-eds I wrote in my local paper long before I ever thought about running for U.S. Senate, condemning the genocide in Gaza. So there are elements of me that I think are much more legitimate when it comes to something from the normal world. Yeah.
I want to delve into Israel in just a moment.
But the comparison here really is only being made because they're both chud-coded, right? I'm actually asking, is there any association ideologically between Fetterman and Graham Platner besides the fact that they're both like gruff, husky dudes? That genuinely seems to be the only connection.
Name that's associated with you when people talk about your candidacy. Some people call you the white Mamdani. I don't know if you've heard that phrase, which made me chuckle. What do you make of the comparison with
I
Zoran
thought Katie Wilson was the white Mamdani. How many white Mamdanis are there out there? What the fuck?
Mamdani? Here is a proud democratic socialist who ran a very populist, leftist, anti-establishment primary campaign and then general election campaign and won. What do you make of the comparisons between you and Zoran Mamdani?
I think the comparisons are at this point primarily just because anybody who's doing something outside of the normal realm of politics with any kind of populist message for working class people, we're all going to get lumped together. I mean, I think the mayor and I's backgrounds are intensely different.
Yes.
I assume that my gun safe looks a little bit different than his. And there are elements, I think, of where we come from in our worlds and our politics that are different. One thing that I think you can absolutely make a comparison about is our focus on organizing as a political tool, focusing on building power in communities to have that be part of your electoral strategy. We're very much doing that here in Maine. It's why we are succeeding at the rate that we are.
Yes.
And if you look at where the mayor won, it was because he had a lot of people who turned out and organized the old-fashioned way. I think that's a fair comparison.
Do you consider yourself to be a socialist? I know in the past online you've written that you were a communist at one point.
Okay, we yapping? Yeah, a little bit. You get what I mean about the interviews, though, right? I guess the tough question really, because the shit I really want to know, I want to know how the sausage gets made, but they don't tell you that shit in Hamilton the musical. The whole point is that you're not in the room where it happens. It's from perspective wise, you're with Aaron Burr. What I want to know, I want to interview AOC, and I don't want to ask her like, do you think there's a genocide in Gaza? Because I don't fucking care. I know there's one. What I want to ask is like, what did Pelosi tell you to make you break down and cry? Like, why are you being a pussy? Like, what are they like? I'm not impugning you. Like, I'm asking you, what are they doing to you? What does the back end look like? But of course she couldn't tell me. But I really want to know. That's what I want to know. That's the shit that I want to know. I want to know it so badly. You have no idea. I really, 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 really want to know how much of it is implicit versus explicit coercion. I want to know. I know there's coercion. I want to know. Can you show me? Because a big part of being a conspiracy theorist is attributing to explicit coercion what is actually implicit. A lot of people think that like being a politician means that local business magnates sit you down and they're like, if you don't do what we tell you, we're gonna fucking kill you. But in reality, it's not like that, I think. I usually think, for the most part, I think, it's more like the business magnates meet with you, they wine and dine you, they treat you nice, and they're like, hey, you know, just to let you know, like, we have a really big mutual investment in the well-being in the state, we provide a lot of jobs, we provide a lot of money, we provide a lot of tax revenue, and to let you know, like, our bidders are interested in moving projects to other states. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that, you know? I want to stay right here in, like, I don't know, Vermont or whatever. But we might move to New Hampshire. It really depends. So just letting you know, like, if things keep working out, we can stay here, but if not, we can't. Like, hopefully you vote this way on this bill. And then you have to go home and be like, okay, well, fuck, I could be principled and vote against it, but if I do, it's going to be years and years of fallout, thousands of jobs lost, potentially, not to mention all the media contacts that businessman has, all the local news channels he's going to go on, and that fat fucking chud businessman is going to go on like the local Fox station or something, and he's going to say, yeah, I thought that this representative was a reasonable person, but unfortunately it seems they've gone ahead and they've cost the Vermont people jobs, da-da-da. So like, none of this is explicit, and nobody's life is being threatened. It's just like, you know, really difficult to summon the inertia and the willpower to push against that kind of organized, you know, capital. I don't know. I want to know. I want to know. I just watched a few minutes around the end part of you speaking about the Correspondence Dinner shooting, and your false flag take is absolutely idiotically reflexive and irresponsible. Oh, you only watched 20 minutes of it? Well, in the 21st minute, I actually showed proof. You missed it. It ultimately, it comes back to historical materialism. It comes back to Marxism in the sense that, like, people don't do bad things because they're bad people. They might be bad people, but people do bad things because they exist in a system that incentivizes bad things. If you somehow magically eliminated every person in the Epstein files, tomorrow we'd still be capitalist, and they would find new Epstein people, you know? Even if you got rid of the middle managers, you would get the middle managers again. The underlying system, the incentive structure, is built on a complex, like woven fabric of environmental circumstances and material reality and technological limitations. You know, democracy exists the way that it does only because materially technology developed to a point where fewer people were needed to manage the farms and more people moved into the cities to work in the industrial economy, which required more people to be educated, to be middlemen, to be managers. More people needed to learn how to read and write, which means you need public schools. And if you have public schools, that means you can enable the necessary level of literacy and social awareness required to facilitate like a basic democracy. Everything, it's downstream of environment every time. Every time. Culture has an effect, but it's not total. So likewise, what conditions do you need to procure to get a good outcome here? I don't know, man. It's tough. It's tough. You get me, right?
No, I don't. And it's if you read those comments, it's very clear. We're not doing the thing that we claim we're doing. If we're not bringing democracy, what we are asking is that we follow our own laws here. It's not that complicated.
Your opponent, Janet Mills, was recently asked if she denies that Israel is carrying out a genocide in Gaza. She kind of threw up her hands and just started talking about genocides in Sudan and weirdly in Somalia. She also mentioned the Rwandan genocide from over 30.
People love bringing that shit up as though like the American government is best friends with Rwanda and we're giving money and weapons to Rwanda and our politicians are making loyalty oaths to Rwanda and passing laws banning boycotts to Rwanda and talking about how we have a shared future with Rwanda and how American Rwandan values are the light of future civilization. It's we're 100%, equivalent situation there.
Years ago, she wouldn't say Israel is committing a genocide. She just dodged that point. What do you think's driving that kind of answer and behavior from her?
I very much think she just comes from an era of establishment politicians that are just fundamentally wrong on this issue and who think that these sort of mealy-mouthed, politically incoherent responses are going to be acceptable to the American people, and they're not. People don't want to hear like a 10-minute rambling, winding.
A lot of thing that, or a big thing Democrats, and I think a lot of libshits like globeheads or whatever on Twitter don't seem to understand is that a lot of the outrage over Gaza and Israel in particular isn't even about foreign policy. It's about legitimacy. Israel is obviously evil. It's a demon state. Everyone knows this. Just a direct, like, what's the term? Prima facie, like, observation of the world leads one to this conclusion. Everyone understands this. It is a genocide. It's just obvious, But, like, lots of bad things happen everywhere. The shit that's happening in Sudan, like, pound for pound, is probably a lot worse than anything going on right now in the Middle East, and it has been for years. The difference is that our politicians aren't getting up there and speaking to their voters and lying every fucking day about Sudan. It's just an issue that a lot of Americans aren't as engaged with, It's a sincerity check. Like, in a lot of ways, I prefer people like Randy Fine, who are just open bigots supporting Israel, than people like, Schumer, who are also very bigoted in their support, who use the Torah as like a religious pretext justifying the genocide of Palestinians, but pretend that it's some kind of like advocacy for democracy or whatever. That pisses me off more. I don't know. People use this as a litmus test for sincerity. People want their politicians to come across as sincere,
Nation invoking genocides from 30 years ago and about how concerning it all is. People don't want concern. People want it to stop. And they want politicians and leaders who are going to call it for what it is, for what the entire world sees it for being. And I just think that there are a lot of establishment politicians who just cannot come to grips with this shift.
Just on that note, just grabbing something you just said a moment ago, do you think the reason for your success so far in the polls is that you do speak like a normal person? Like, is that
a lot of issues are like this for me. I care about the issue itself, but the main thing is that I don't believe that a trustworthy person can have a wrong stance on it. I have come to value sincerity so fucking much over time, like way more than I ever thought that I would when I was younger. Like, I would rather have a politician who I just flat out disagree with, but I feel like their disagreement is legitimate. So, like, a good example would be that on Twitter, there are two types of libshits, like globeheads or whatever. There are the people who are just like, enjoy the performative condescension towards leftists. Like they're like, well, more economists are liberal. Look at the numbers. Look at the graphs. Don't you know the number? Like people who just like the argument. I have no respect for these people. And then there are people who earnestly, legitimately believe that liberal reform, that like moderated political reform is better for America, and they earnestly believe it. Like the data, the policy wonks, you know? And I don't agree with them necessarily when it comes to how they think the best solution could be implemented, but I do respect the fact that they care, you know? I think a lot of Democratic politicians just don't care, you know? A lot of them just don't, they're not motivated by policy wonkery. You know what I mean? But I'll respect a well-intentioned liberal. The Chris Hayes is, yeah. Chris Hayes is a good example. You know, I disagree with him on some of the stuff that he believes, but I think that he does believe it, and he seems to be earnest about it, and that does mean a lot to me. I didn't think I'd value earnestness this much or sincerity, but over time, it's almost gotten to be like the number one issue for me. Like I would rather a liberal who I think stands by their issues and really believes in it than a socialist who's being performative. Genuinely, I would, you know? But that's one of the reasons why Israel is such a good litmus test, because I feel like there's no way to be sincere and support Israel. I feel like supporting Israel has to come from a position of sincerity because they're, again, like, evidently evil. I don't think that a good faith assessment of the situation in America and in Israel and the relationship between our politicians and the way American politicians act, I don't think anyone can look at that and be like, I sincerely think that, you know, continuing to support Israel is the best for them or for us. I think it has to be a position born of insincerity or spite or aversion to a lack of conflict or something. Could someone be sincerely bigoted? If they were, they would have to openly own it, like Randy Fine. Like, yes, they can be. I think Randy Fine really does support Israel because he's a disgusting bigot. But like, you would have to own it then. You'd have to be public. And I wouldn't want to vote for that, of course. But I mean, at least then the lines are clear, I suppose.
That has plagued the Democratic Party, that everyone talks like a consultant, speaks in talking points. And actually, Donald Trump showed us that the American public not only don't care if you don't talk like a politician, they actually prefer it if you don't.
Oh, by 100%. I mean, something that's been fascinating for me in this entire experience is realizing just how many people who run for office don't actually have any deeper political beliefs. Like, for me, being able to explain my positions is relatively easy. I feel like I've got a very strong political foundation. I know what I believe. I know why I believe it. And it's easy for me to talk about it because this is stuff that I believe. I don't have these like pre-memorized, focus group tested talking points that I have to Rolodex through in my brain. I'm running on my politics. And what I have found is that when you run on your politics, people just find that accessible and understandable. And when you go out into communities like we've been doing, we hold town halls almost daily. When you do that and you talk about what you believe, why you believe it, and what policies you want to enact to make those beliefs a reality, people they understand it and they connect with it. And I think that very much has to do with why we've succeeded in the polls thus far.
So on that note, a perfect segue into what I want to talk about next, which I'm sure you're fed up about talking about, but is all the controversies associated with you and especially your online comments from the past. And since you said you're comfortable explaining yourself, let's talk very plainly about some of this stuff, because I know you've spoken about this before, but it's the first time you and I are speaking about any of this. The biggest single controversy of your campaign, which is not going to go away if Susan Collins has her way, is a tattoo you got in 2007 that you've since had covered up of a skull and crossbones that resembles a very infamous Nazi symbol. You said you had no idea about the connection, saying, quote, I absolutely would not have gone through life having this on my chest if I knew that. When exactly did you find out that the tattoo on your chest could be a Nazi tattoo or seen as one?
About 3 or 4 days before I had it covered up. I got that tattoo with some other Marines when we were on shore leave in Croatia in 2007. And then I had it for 17 years. I went through 2 security clearances. I re-enlisted in the United States Army, got screened for gang and hate tattoos, and then I went to work for the State Department on the ambassador security team in Kabul, where I got a top secret clearance and also got screened. Never came up. I took my shirt off in front of my extended Jewish family the entire time. I would not have done that.
What a flex.
If I thought I had some obviously recognizable white supremacist or Nazi symbol.
Unless you knew the people attending that wedding had a great sense of humor, something the Jews are known for.
So Graham, why then, and that all sounds perfectly reasonable, especially the security checks, so why then did a former top official on your campaign, Genevieve McDonald, your former political director, tell The Guardian last year, while he may not have known what his tattoo meant when he selected the image, it's not plausible he remained ignorant of its meaning all these years?
I don't.
Like Mel Brooks would go crazy for that shit, wouldn't he? That'd be like an all-timer for him. He'd tell that story at every subsequent interview. He'd write that into a scene.
I don't know why she said that. She was only on the campaign for a little over a month and would not have known anything about things I would have known. She quit in rather spectacular fashion and then spent some time saying deprecating things about the campaign and about myself.
Okay, then why did CNN report that they spoke to an acquaintance of yours from more than a decade ago who said you talked to him about your tattoo resembling a Nazi symbol?
Well, I believe they actually reported on a Jewish insider investigation, which had spoken to one anonymous person who, when they claimed they knew me, it was years. They said they knew me from when I worked at a bar from years I didn't even work at that bar.
Okay.
And
so you're denying that allegation, just to be clear?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It also came out after the story broke. So, you know, it's...
just on the bigger picture, I can understand...
Again, yeah, I just don't buy it. I just don't really care. I don't buy it, and I don't care.
Understand what you're saying, and I'm hearing your denials. And
why is Mehdi squeezing this out of him? Well, Mehdi supports Graham Platner. I think it's just, again, this is why I am a bad interviewer, because I don't like asking questions I already have the answer to, and if I support somebody, I don't see a point in asking them like if somebody watches me, they know what I believe, and if I like them, it's because they believe at least most of what I believe. There's enough synchronicity there that I don't think it's an issue. I already have the answers to these questions because I've seen them answered before. I just want to talk. Like, I feel like if I had my way, my interviewing style would lean more towards just like purely shooting the shit, like Adam Friedland style, if I could pull it off, because I don't have Adam Friedland's chops for that kind of interviewing. But I like, for me, that would be the thing of greater interest. You get to read in a person a little bit, you know? So you're okay with lying? Not generally, but what the fuck else is he supposed to say here, right? Like, yeah, I knew I had a Nazi tattoo on, and it was a bit. Like, it was funny. I don't think that would vibe with the average. Well, actually, the average Republican might find that admirable, so. I don't know. It's tough. Did it for the meme. It's going to be more of a thing moving forward, too, because, like, as we get older, more and more political candidates are going to have very present online histories beforehand. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to have to deal with more and more candidates who just, like, they've got a digital footprint their whole lives, every stupid fucking thing, every opinion they've ever had. He was getting lambasted for like 12-year-old Reddit comments, man.
And the point about your extended Jewish family, it makes sense. And you're a progressive, so people are giving you a lot of leeway because they like your policy platform. But surely you would admit, if you were a Republican who had been found with that tattoo on your chest, people, progressives, Democrats, would be losing their minds, wouldn't they not?
Shouldn't someone worth supporting have the answers to this? Well, he does have an answer. He's just like lying with it, you know? Is it worth supporting someone who's this well stupid? Yeah, I don't really care. Again, like, so what's the alternative? The Mills, who's pro-genocide? Like, again, the worst interpretation of Graham Platner is still better than what a moderate Democrat is. Unless you think that he's a secret Nazi, which I think is an insane thing to believe, you know? I think that it's far, far more reasonable to assume that he's just nonplussed.
Well, I think if I had that tattoo and had displayed at any point in my life any affinity for fascism or bigotry or, you know, racism, then that would absolutely be something to connect. Thing is, and all of my Reddit posts, if you read through them, they've been out there since October, every single one of them. It's fairly clear that I have been long an opponent of fascism, bigotry, and racism. Sometimes with language that people say is too extreme, even though, I don't know, fighting fascism seems like something we should all be dedicated to.
On the language front, though, this has caught up with you now. We talked a moment ago about how popular you've become because you speak like a normal person, but that comes with its own challenges in the political world, which is you've used the word retarded, which I saw you apologize for this week. week. You've made comments about women that both Janet Mills and Susan Collins have attacked you for. There's the tattoo. Do you at least accept that going into the general election, this is going to be an issue for you because the Republican Party are not going to let this slide. They're going to use this against you. You know the word baggage. Do you at least accept that for
it's not going to work? Like, what? Can you imagine a Republican actually getting up in arms about their opponents saying retard? Like, seriously? In the Trump era, like anyone fucking cares?
Perceptual point of view, regardless of your individual justifications for all of it, do you accept politically it is a big challenge for you going into a general election with all of this quote-unquote baggage?
I will say I don't really think so, because in my experience thus far going around Maine, a lot of people look at that and say, like, okay, so he's a guy that never wanted to run for office. He's not of the system at all, and he very clearly just comes from the normal world and has existed in the normal world, coming with all of the things that come with that. I mean, I was in the Marine Corps infantry, and I've worked on a boat on the ocean for the past decade. Salty language, that kind of stuff it is a thing that I am constantly working to improve. But it also very much is because of the place that I come from and the world that I come from. And I'm working very hard to always be improving and to always be being a better version of myself. I think for a lot of people, that's what they're working on too. And it is a way that we can sort of demonstrate that you can change. You can improve yourself. You can take accountability for things that you have said in the past. And while, of course, the Republican Party is going to try to hammer me into the ground on this stuff, but truthfully, as I go around Maine, people in Maine don't care about that. People in Maine care about the fact that the hospitals are closing.
Yes. You do have a 27-point lead over Janet Mills, so clearly you're right about that. I think in the general it's slightly different, right? Because the Republican Party, as you know, and Susan Collins is no fool, she's held that seat for a while. They're doing their Oppo research on you. I got to ask the question, Graham, is there other stuff out there that's going to come out now, between now and November? Is there another?
I think Pete Buttigieg might be smarter than Graham Platner, but Pete is the fakest person you could think of in politics while Platner's lived a life. Yeah, it goes back to, like, I don't know, the neo-feudalist tendencies of the current ruling class, but it does kind of feel like intelligence is almost a non-issue here, and sincerity is the real thing we should be looking for. Like, the problems we're facing right now in Congress are not because the people in Congress are stupid, it's because they're evil. There are stupid people in Congress, and usually all that means is that they're being evil in a stupid way, but the evil is its own problem, you know? You don't have to be smart to be in Congress or the Senate. You're not writing the bills. You're not even reading them. Your staff manage that. I just want you to have good moral instincts. You know what I mean? But these are the arguments that the royalty would make, right? Like, you don't want the unwashed peasant mob ruling a country. We're the only ones educated. We're the only ones who can fucking read Latin. Why the fuck would you want them ruling the country, you know? And it's kind of true, but at the same time, like, I don't know, man. I don't think that being the only guy with an education means it's okay for you to prima noctis your way through every fucking, you know, every village virgin. You can't do that shit. Not to distract from the segment, but Indiana's most prominent Democrat is Pete Buttigieg. Prominent is a hell of a word. I'd be willing to bet that Pete Buttigieg would not win a congressional race from any district in Indiana.
Chat forum we don't know about, another tattoo we haven't seen.
No. Everybody's seen all my tattoos now. And,
the Sonnenrad asshole tattoo is going to hit the general
we released everything.
Like a nuclear bomb.
We put it all back in October.
Time will tell.
Time will tell. And look, the Republican Party is absolutely going to lie. You know, at some point that's coming. They, you know, said they swift voted John Kerry. They said Barack Obama wasn't an American. So like, when it comes to the Republican Party, God only knows what they're going to come up with that isn't true. They just ran an AI-generated thing.
They did, yes. Ridiculous.
Yeah. So like, the dirty tricks, that's all going to happen.
But one last question on this before we move on. What do you say to supporters of Janet Mills' establishment? They're going to say, look, it's just not worth the risk. Why put up someone with all of this stuff who has to explain away Nazi-looking tattoos? Why not just put up the governor of the state who's already won statewide as a Democrat and doesn't have a tattoo of a skull and bones on her?
Because the governor consistently loses in the polls to Susan Collins. And the governor is very much close to the political establishment. The governor was the DS candidate, chosen by Washington, D.C. I'll tell you, that's far more risky right now. People don't want establishment politics.
That's true.
People want real people in politics who are going to fight for the material needs of real people.
On that note, let's do a quick rapid fire to see where you stand on some real issues. Would you vote in favor of a $20 minimum wage?
Yes.
Would you vote to get rid of the Senate filibuster?
Yes.
Would you vote to convict Donald Trump in an impeachment trial?
Yes.
Do you support statehood for D.C. and Puerto Rico?
Yes.
Do you support Chuck Schumer for Senate Majority Leader?
No.
Do you support Hakeem Jeffries for House Speaker in 2027?
No.
Would you support a ban on assault weapons?
No.
If you go on to win your Senate seat in Maine, will you run for president in 2028?
No.
All right, so those answers, I think a lot of people will be nodding along, apart from probably the assault weapons ban question, which I think, as you know, a lot of progressives will disagree with you on and say it's a major issue that helps prevent mass shootings. What would you say to them?
I think in a country that's already awash in guns, we have 20 to 30 million AR-15s in America. We don't actually know how many. Restricting access to people with a violent history or people who are going to commit a violent act, that is where we're going to see the most effect. And I support universal background checks, and I support red flag laws, like the one that Maine passed by ballot measure overwhelmingly last November. I think that those combined with expanding mental health services across the board as part of a much more substantial healthcare system and
this is the only correct take in American gun reform. Yeah, people still give me shit for this because they're idiots who live in LA or New York or they're Europeans. But adding like, we're going to take away all your assault rifles to your progressive policy platform basically just like knocks 10 points off of your future electoral viability for no reason with no potential gain. You will not get anything done. You will not succeed. You will mire yourself in endless controversy. It is worthless. You're just like committing electoral suicide for no reason, especially in Maine, man. Fuck.
Using the power of the federal government to elevate people out of poverty. I think holistically, when we think about gun violence, that's where we're going to get the most reduction.
You said earlier this week that you think Chuck Schumer will back your candidacy if you're the general election official Democratic candidate going into the fall against Susan Collins. You're not worried that they might, you know, a la Zoran Mamdani, sorry to go back to Mamdani, there might be a sense where actually they just refuse to endorse and back you?
Who the mayor of New York is does not control who is the majority in the Senate. And if Democrats in the Senate want anything else, or they don't want anything else more than getting the majority, any road to a blue Senate goes through the state of Maine. Beating Susan Collins, who we have been unable to unseat for 30 years, that is a goal that the Democratic Party wants to accomplish. And I firmly believe that when I'm the nominee, the Democratic Party is going to understand that, and they are going to want to beat Susan Collins far more than they may have some disdain for me.
He's actually being less negative than I would be here. I'd be like, I genuinely think that Chuck Schumer would give up Senate majority if it meant having as many pro-Israel people in as possible.
I hope you're right, because Susan Collins is one of the chief enablers of Trump in our lifetime. Last question, Graham Platner. Josh Keefe, a reporter at the Maine Monitor, I believe you went to high school with, he wrote an article recently and he pointed out that you were voted most likely to start a revolution back in high school. What would a Graham Platner revolution in Washington, D.C. look like if you get there?
I mean, I very much subscribe to Bernie Sanders' concept that we need a political revolution. And it would be a revolution not just in policy, but also in structure. You know, we need to bring democracy back. We need to get money out of politics. If I had my way, elections would be publicly funded. They'd last about 2 months. I think that we need to look at the structures we have that are supposed to be democratic and understand that they have not resulted in an actual representative democracy. We need to change many of those structures. And I think a lot of it is going to come down to the 21st century economic bill of rights. 1944, FDR put out an economic bill of rights. He thought that while we had democratized our politics, we had not democratized our economy. And in a system in which consolidated wealth eventually equals consolidated political power, that is a project we need to be engaged in. And I am very much an advocate for that, for finishing that project. And I would say bringing to fruition the actual goal of New Deal programs. Instead, they got stymied, and we've been seeing them get cut ever since. We need to finish that project.
Well said. Graham Platner, Democratic primary candidate in Maine. Thank you so much for joining me on Mehdi Unfiltered. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks a lot, Mehdi. I appreciate it.
That's a good interview. I wonder, after all the primaries are said and done, how many more like dark horse progressive candidates we're going to see. Like Graham Platner gets a bunch of attention, of course, because he's a Senate candidate who's already polling very well. So well, in fact, that people aren't even like the primaries basically done and done. But I wonder, after all the primaries are settled, how many like good new challengers we're going to see across the country. I hope we get some good ones. It would be nice. You forgot about this vid? Why do you think I forgot about it? It's just not the vid I did first. I don't think he's dumb at all. I don't think he's stupid in the sense that his brain don't work good. I think that it was dumb as fuck to not get rid of that tattoo as soon as you could, you know? Like, especially after deciding you're going to run for Senate. I don't think he's actually, like, low IQ or whatever. Not that IQ is real. IQ is real. Yeah, I can't trust you guys with that information.